कहाँ से आए, जिस मन में अभिमान वहाँ भगवान कहाँ से आए।
जिस घर में अंधकार वहाँ मेहमान कहाँ से आए, जिस मन में अभिमान वहाँ भगवान कहाँ से आए।
भगवान कहाँ से आए, अपने मन मंदिर में ज्योति जला के देख ले।
अपने मन मंदिर में ज्योति जला के देख ले।
आ जाते भगवान कोई बुला के देख ले। वीर नाम अति मीठा है, कोई गा के देख ले।
वीर नाम अति मीठा है, कोई गा के देख ले।
आ जाते भगवान कोई बुला के देख ले। वीर नाम अति मीठा है। आधे नाम से आ जाते हो कोई बुलाने वाला, बिक जाते भगवान कोई हो मोल चुकाने वाला।
आधे नाम से आ जाते हो कोई बुलाने वाला, बिक जाते भगवान कोई हो मोल चुकाने वाला।
कोई मोल चुकाने वाला, कोई चंदना जैसे उड़द खिला के देख ले। कोई शबरी झूठे बेर खिला के देख ले।
आ जाते भगवान कोई बुला के देख ले।
वीर नाम अति मीठा है, कोई गा के देख ले।
वीर नाम अति मीठा है, कोई गा के देख ले।
आ जाते भगवान कोई बुला के देख ले। वीर नाम अति मीठा है। हृदय दी जो चांदनों ने नैना दी जो जोत। हृदय दी जो चांदनों ने नैना दी जो जोत। इतनी बाता नहीं देव तो रह जाऊं लाठोर, म्हारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता। इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ूं सारी ममता।
हमारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता, इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ो सारी ममता।
नौ तत्वरो ज्ञान दीजो संकित साची।
नौ तत्वरो ज्ञान दीजो समकित साची।
अंधारो अज्ञान रो हर जो समझण ताची। म्हारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता, इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ूं सारी ममता।
हमारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता इतनी बातें पूरी करो तो छोड़ो सारी ममता
शर्म में उमर गवाए हाथ न आयो भाई मारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ू सारी ममता
मारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ू सारी ममता
धीरज शांति भक्ति बढ़ाओ दीजो आत्म ज्ञान हमारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ू सारी ममता हमारा गुरुदेव गुणवंता इतनी बाता पूरी करो तो छोड़ू सारी ममता
Okay, Kajal, over to you.
Jai Jinendra, and good evening to everyone joining us this evening. I welcome you all to Sri Channa Vidyapith Adult Class from wherever you're logging on. My name is Kajal Sheth, and I'm one of the teachers here at SCVP Jain School. I would like to start by reminding everyone to stay on mute whilst we're conducting and to place any questions over the Zoom chat function. I hope that you're all comfortable and ready for this journey together for the next hour or so to engage, to learn, and for the mind to be stimulated, to leave all the negativities behind, everything that you might see on TV or hear on the news. Just, let's try and leave it all behind. So let's start by sharing some really exciting news. After a hugely successful run of virtual events through Paryushan, Veerayatan has now embarked on a new vision initiated by Puja Acharya Sri Channaji Maharaj to empower every member of the community to lead a happy, well-balanced and fulfilling life. This is going to be carried out through multiple virtual learning programs being broadcasted from various different countries all over the world for the spiritual upliftment and holistic development of all individuals of all ages. I encourage everyone present to complete the short registration form, which will be available on the chat function, as well as the WhatsApp group, so that you can have access to information on any existing learning programs available, which you can join. And you will also be updated with any new courses starting from 1st October for 3 months. So we're about to start now, and I would like to call upon Krish. He's one of our Praveshika students, and he will lead the Naukar mantra. Krish, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, if you can join your hands and Krish, lead the way.
Namo Arihantanam, Namo Namo, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Namo, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Namo, Namo Ojayanam, Namo Namo, नमो लोये सवसाहुनम नमो लोये सवसाहुनम एसो पंच नमोकारो सव्वपावपनासनम मंगलालम च सव्वेसिम परवम हवै मंगलम परवम हवै मंगलम.
Krish, do you want to continue reciting the Uvasagram as well?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pusagaharam pasam pasam vannami kamagaramukam visaravisaninnasam mangalakalana avasam visarapulingamantam kantedare josaya manuvo tasagaharogamariam ducha jarajanti vasamam chittau doremanto duchapanamo bahufalohovi naritiriye suvijiva bhavantina dukkha dogacham Tosamate latte chintamani five pihiye pavanti avikenam jira ayara marantanam yasanto mayasa patibarani prena hirena tari vadich bohim bhave bhave paswadina chanda. Jai Jinendra.
Jai Jinendra. Thank you, Krish.
Thank you.
Jai Jinendra.
Kajal, you're on mute.
Hi, if I can call upon Ashaben. Thank you, Krish. That was wonderful. And Ashaben will lead us on to the Stavan.
वीरा सर्वसुरा सुरेंद्र महितो वीरं बुला संश्रिता वीरेणाभिहत स्वकर्मणि जयो वीराय नित्यं नमः वीरा तीर्थमिदं प्रवृत्तमतुलं वीरस्य घोरं तपो वीरे श्रीधृतिकीर्तिकान्ते निजय श्रीवीरभद्रं दिश तमे मूषणधारे वरस्या तमे मूषणधारे वरस्या में जन्म जन्म ना तरस्या तमी मन्मुखीने वरस्या में जन्म जन्म ना तरस्या तमी मन्मुखीने वरस्या में जन्म जन्म ना तरस्या हजार हाथे तमे दीधु पण जोड़ी अमारी खाली हो हजार हाथे तमे दीधु पण जोड़ी अमारी खाली ज्ञान खजानो तमे लुटाव्यो तो ए अमे अज्ञानी हो ज्ञान खजानो तमे लुटाव्यो तो ए अमे अज्ञानी तमे अमृत रूपे वरस्या तमे अमृत रूपे वरस्या में ઝેર ના ઘૂંટડા ફરસ્યા તમે મન મૂકીને વરસ્યા જન્મ જન્મના તરસ્યા સ્નેહની ગંગા તમે વહાવી આ જીવન નિર્મલ કરવા સ્નેહની ગંગા તમે વહાવી જીવન નિર્મલ કરવા પ્રેમની જ્યોતિ તમે જગાવી આત્મ ઉજ્જવલ કરવા હો પ્રેમની જ્યોતિ તમે જગાવી આત્મ ઉજ્જવલ કરવા તમે સૂરજ થઈને ચમક્યા તમે સૂરજ થઈને ચમક્યા મેં અંધારામાં ભટક્યા તમે મન મૂકીને વરસ્યા મેં જન્મ જન્મના તરસ્યા શબ્દે શબ્દે શાતાપે એવી તમારી વાણી હો શબ્દે શબ્દે શાતાપે એવી તમારી વાણી એ વાણીની પાવનતાને અમે કદી ન પીછાણી હો એ વાણીની પાવનતાને અમે કદી ન પીછાણી તમે મહેરામણ થઈ ઉમટ્યા તમે મહેરામણ થઈ ઉમટ્યા મેં કાંઠે આવી અટક્યા અમે મન મૂકીને વરસ્યા મેં જન્મ જન્મના તરસ્યા તમે મૂષળધારે વરસ્યા તમે મૂષળધારે વરસ્યા મેં જન્મ જન્મના તરસ્યા અમે જન્મ જન્મના તરસ્યા અમે જન્મ જન્મના તરસ્યા. Thank you.
Wow, what a wonderful stavan you recited, Ashaben. Thank you so much. And thank you to Krish for starting us off with the prayer and Uvasagram. It's exactly what we need in these difficult times with everything that's going on outside. So we shall now move on to today's class. We are joined by Sandeep Bhai Shah. He will enlighten us with his grace, with his wisdom, and with his thorough understanding of the Jain Dharma as one of our adult class teachers. He will be leading today's session with chapter 9 on War and Peace. Over to you, Sandeep Bhai.
Thank you, Kajal and Ashaben. What a wonderful, wonderful stavan. Thank you so much. I just wanted to, first of all, listening to the stavan, we know it's Tame Man Mukine Varasya, Ame Janama Janamana Tarasya. So Mahavir Swami has been with us for the past 2,500 years through his words, through his scriptures, to the various acharyas, upadhyay Maharajis over the centuries who have kept on giving us this information. I don't know, can you see me or everyone?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay. So yeah, he has been giving us this inspiration, and sorry, I've just got I need to spotlight. Yeah. So he has been giving us his inspiration through his words. And one of the most beautiful books written has been, obviously there have been wonderful books written on Mahavir Swami, but this one is so lucidly written, and it is obviously called, as you all know, it's called Walk With Me. So last week, Ketan Bhai elaborated on the issue of ahimsa. Now, ahimsa is a mainstay, as we all know, and I think everyone in this audience knows, is a mainstay of Jainism. No other religion has taken ahimsa to the level that Jainism has. So with that in mind, I'd like to begin today's class, and I'd like to obviously start sharing my screen. So just give me 1 second while I share my screen. So today we'll be looking at War and Peace and chapter 9, which is Mrugavati. Now, last week we learned the nature of violence and why it can never be eliminated. Intentional and unintentional violence and active ahimsa in society. And I think Ketan Bhai made you all think and discuss, as Ketan Bhai, he really stimulates people in his class. So it was a wonderful session. So today I will expand on that with the story of Queen Mrugavati and her relationship with Mahavir Swami. She is not that well known in the iconography of Jain religion, but she is a very, very important and a powerful figure, and she through her we are the focus is laid on the issue of war and peace. Now, we all know the world around us. There is a lot of discord. There is a lot of between nations, between people, between communities, all kinds of discord which is happening. And even in Mahavir Swami's time, it used to happen. So in Mahavir Swami's time, obviously, in India, there was this whole caste system which had been established. The caste system was supposed to be horizontal, but instead, over the years, it had become vertical. So you had the Vaishyas, you had the Shudras, and then you had the Kshatriyas, and then you had the Brahmins. And effectively, basically, people started getting very, very suppressed under that vertical system, and the Brahmins became extremely oppressive. You couldn't do religion, and I think even below the Shudras were the women. And women were really treated like slaves, as we know in the story of Chandan Bala, where she was sold as a slave. They were treated as worse than dirt, really. Not that the role of woman has changed drastically since that time, but hopefully, there's a bit more enlightenment and about their contribution to society. Mahavir Swami radically announced the Chaturvid Sangh, as we all know, where he created Shravak, Shravika, Sadhu, Sadhvi. So he created the female version of the male as well. So he created a whole society, and it was very, very controversial. And of course, with that came a lot of people who wanted to join his Sangh, because they all realized that this is the way forward. So let me move forward. So the vow of ahimsa for Shravak and Shravika is called Anuvrat, which we learned in during Paryushan. Then this is from the Yoga Shastra, and it explains ahimsa vow for lay people. So it says Thul Pranatipat, Virman Vrat, Nishkaran, Nirapradhi, Tras Jivoni, Sankalp Purvak Hinsa no Tyag. So basically what it means is Nishkaran means without a valid reason, Nirapradhi, which is not being guilty, Traschi means 2 to 5 sense beings, and Sankalp Purva, that means premeditated, planned violence I give up. Right? Now, premeditated and planned means something that you have thought about, where you have actually, planned some sort of a violence in your mind, and then you might vocalize it or you might physically enact it. It basically says you give up this violence. So this is the thing which underpins Jainism, as you learned last week. So one of the things which is from Gandhiji, it says non-violence is the law of our species as violence is the law of the brute. The spirit lies dormant in the brute and he knows no law but that of physical might. The dignity of man requires obedience to a higher law, to the strength of the spirit. And this is from Gandhiji. Now, why did I bring in Gandhiji? Because Gandhiji single-handedly, well, not quite single-handedly, but through his non-violent means established or brought about the independence of India, and he basically got rid of the British Empire from India. Similarly, you have Nelson Mandela, who's on the other side. Nelson Mandela spent many, many years in prison. But when he came out, one of the first things he did was forgive the people who oppressed him. And he was not after vendetta at all. And similarly, Gandhiji never said that you should pick up arms, but he said you should resist oppression. And so this is where War and Peace and Mrugavati comes in, where you have oppression, where you have a society where there is iniquity, where you have things which are basically not right in terms of what respect of human life, respect of living or any living beings. And that is where you need to make a stance. You cannot be passive. Unfortunately, over the years, Jain Dharma has become a very passive religion, because what we tend to do is we tend to say that, it is for my own salvation that I will follow this path. And my own salvation means that I should not bind any karmas, whether it is good or bad. And so a lot of Jains have sort of adopted their very passive, almost sort of otherwardifying role in life. Whereas, you have iniquities, you have people who are suffering, you have things which are happening, which are wrong in this world, and you have to raise a voice. You cannot keep quiet. So I'll come to the story of Queen Mrugavati. So Vatsa was a kingdom near modern Allahabad. The capital of Vatsa was Kaushambi, and the king of Vatsa was Shatanik. Now Shatanik, if you remember, and his wife was Mrugavati. His Mrugavati's sister was Dharini, who was the queen of Angad. So she was Chandan Bala's mother. So basically, Queen Mrugavati was Chandan Bala's aunt. And they were both daughters of King Chetak, of the king of Vaishali. We all know that Shatanik attacked Anga and made Chandan Bala an orphan. Now, you would think that there were brothers-in-law, because these were two sisters, and why would you want to attack a neighboring kingdom? But as we know, political life knows no relatives, friends, or loyalties. A brother may turn against brother, son against father, and friend against friend if it's opportune to do so. They care less about suffering and pain if afflicted on the citizens. Rulers are supposed to protect their citizens, but their greed and arrogance have no limit. So this is actually taken from the book, but it echoes even today, where you have nations fighting with each other. You have various political groups gathering together, and they get up on the pretense that we're going to free the people, and then the rulers become very autocratic. And we've seen history, it is replete with those kind of examples. So this happens all the time. So when you have brothers-in-law or one brother-in-law attacking the other brother-in-law, it is of no surprise. So anyway, as you know, that Shatanik attacked the kingdom of Ang. He killed Dandivadan, and of course Chandanbala and her mother flew away. And then Chandanbala's mother was Chandanbala. They were going to be molested, and Chandanbala's mother kills herself, and Chandanbala is sold in a slave market. And then we all know the story of Chandanbala. In fact, I did a whole lecture on it, so I'm not going to go on about it. But this is what happened. So now I have a discussion for you. So I would like you to be split up into your groups. I think Jitendra Pai is going to do that. So for discussion is wise rulers and administrators bring about great social and economic progress. Only foolish rulers ignore peaceful alternatives and resort to war. Now, is this relevant today, and how can it be changed is my next question. So I want you to be split up into your groups, and I want you to spend 5 minutes thinking about this and letting me know, please.
Sandeep, you'll have to stop the share.
Okay.
Hello. Hi, Ashabin. Hi, Ashabin. Hello. Hi.
Hi, I believe we have got 2 Ashabins.
Oh, sorry. Hi. Hi, Ashabin.
Hi. There's somebody else also talking, so I wasn't sure whether it was for me or somebody else.
No. Sorry, it's Kajal in the other room. Sorry.
All right. Okay. Sorry.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm
okay?
fine. Thank you. Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah, there's 2 Ashabins. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. No. Sorry, what? One second, Ashabin. Sorry.
No problem.
Can you hear me now?
I can
Hello?
hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Written down the points that he wanted us to discuss. But have you joined the spending up room before? So Zoom. Sorry, we can't hear you very well. Yeah, I think sort of, especially in today's life, I think we struggle quite a lot, isn't it, from this season?
I think so. I think it's very, yeah, I don't think everyone has the same goals at times. You know, and maybe because the end goal isn't the same, the clarity and the vision isn't there. What do you think? And also, we're talking about war and peace in today's time, and I guess how we're managing it.
So guys, are you through?
It's very good measuring to them.
So are we through now? Jits? Hello, Jits. Jits, can you hear me? I should have been in. Is everybody back? Okay, it seems everybody is back.
Sandeepai, everyone should be out of the breakout room.
Okay, thank you. Right. So what did people feel? Wise rulers and administrators bring about greater social and economic progress. Only foolish rulers ignore peaceful alternatives and resort to war. So I was in a group a little while back, and one of the things that we discussed was that perhaps education, because rulers are normally chosen by people, or they conquer a land, or they just come because certain group of people elect them, and they just come into power. And we have history which is full of such examples. And one of the things that we discussed was that we need intelligence, we need education, and we need more peaceful way of looking at things, and that is how society will change. But my contention has always been is that historically we have always get this very strange people coming into power, like you have in US at the moment, you have in Russia, you have in various places. I'm not for a moment suggesting that they're dictators, but it is a very fine line between what they can do and what they can achieve, and they can damage society, as we've been seeing in the US, the split between the black people and the white people, and the divide between the poor and the rich. So this is unfortunately a case, and it is going to carry on. And the only answer is some sort of a peaceful resolution of all of this. And one of the things that Jainism talks about is the whole concept of Syadvad. And when we have time in the future at some stage, then I can discuss Syadvad with all of you people. But basically, Syadvad means that there is no one point of view which is 100% correct. There are several points of view which need to be listened to, and then a decision needs to be made. Okay, so are there any questions so far? If you want to put in on chat, then please by all means put on chat. So I have, sorry, I'm just going to read from people. Rupen says, unfortunately, people do become famous by war. We as a country benefit economically, we as a country by war, and we sell weapons. Very true. Shandip says, greed, power, ego, and criminality still exists amongst our many leaders today. And Ritu Shah says, we just have to look at the example of Syria to see the disaster that war brings. And Rupen says, broken societies will bond together and become powerful by starting war. That is Adolf Hitler united Germany. Very true. And this is going to happen. But I think as we progress, you will see that Jainism does have an answer. And I think it is very important. It belongs to each one of us to basically talk about our religion to people. And say that, look, and at some stage, hopefully some awareness will come. Unfortunately, our religion is still in minority in this world. But, even if you look at Jainism, even Buddhism talks about peace. But historically, it's very interesting, that Mahavir Swami actually encouraged King Chetak to go to war against King Ajatshatu. Because Ajatshatu threatened to kill his own brothers, who were, and they actually took refuge in the kingdom of King Chetak. So this is, historically it's been there, and it is going to be there in the future. So my next slide, if I just stop share and I come back to it, sorry. So in the meantime, so I go back to the story of King Bhrugavati. So in the meantime, so as we all know that Shatanik attacked the kingdom of Ang, right? Now, On the other side, King Chandra Pradyot of Avanti, which is Ujjain in the current, saw a painting of Mrugavati and desired her. So sent a messenger to Kaushambi. The chief messenger went to Shatanik and said to him, now this is actually taken from Trishashti Shalaka Purush, which was written by Hemchandra Acharya. And it is so beautifully written, so I had to put it verbatim here. Shatanik, King Chandra Pradyot commands you. Certainly Queen Mrugavati was obtained by you by chance. Such a jewel of a woman is suitable for me alone. What are you like? Send her quickly to us if kingdom and life are dear to you. Of course, Shatanik refused, and Chandra Pradyot attacked Vatsa and killed Shatanik. Right. So this is what happened. So basically, when Shatanik was being horrible and made Chandanbala an orphan, the same thing happened to him. And this was happening, in fact, India, it was happening all the time, where people were trying to expand their borders and different kingdoms would attack each other. Now, Queen Mrugavati at that time had a son called Udayan, who was young, and so she was in a dilemma. And so she sent a message to King Chandrapadyot, because obviously she did not want to get married to Chandrapadyot. She felt the responsibility of bringing up a son, but she was a woman. And, she felt that, what should I do? So she said, since Shatanik has died, you alone are my refuge. But I have a son whose strength has not been reached. If he is abandoned by me, he will be overcome by rival kings as well as powerful agitations of grief caused to a high degree by the death of his father. Let us first resort peace and administration to this place. As our new king, you must fulfill your responsibility of making our people safe. So Chandra Pradyot agreed. So basically he asked his generals to make the best possible arrangements to protect the queen, rebuild the city, and provide a safe haven for the citizens of Kaushambi. And then he returned to his capital with the hopes of later marrying Mrugavati once Udayan was a bit older, which is what she promised indirectly. She did not say verbatim, she just said, let him become older, then I will consider it. So over time, Kaushambi was rebuilt and Udayan grew up, and Chandra Pradyot was now anxious to get married to Mrugavati, but he sent a message and she said no. And she refused, and he sent an army to invade Kaushambi, but Mrugavati asked all the entrances to the city to be closed. However, shuttering the city was bad for morale of the people, her army, and her dignity. Now, Mahavir Swami, and look at the amazing grace of our Bhagwan, he knew that this was going to be happening. He also knew who Mrugavati was, and he therefore learned that there was an impending war, arrived to the battlefield, and he set up a Samvasaran there. Now, as everybody knows, a Samvasaran is set up by Devs and Devyos in honor of the Bhagwan, where he actually gives a sermon. So, Mahavir Swami set up this beautiful sermon, Samvasaran, on the battlefield where Chandra Pradyot's armies were on one side and where he just set up this thing. Now, interestingly, Mahavir Swami also had a relationship with Chandra Pradyot because he had saved him in past from a certain embarrassment. So when this happened, Mrugavati, increasingly, because she was now getting very disenchanted with the world, she says, if blessed Mahavir comes, then I shall take initiation. So basically, she was ready to take Diksha. Knowing this decision of hers, Bhagwan came very soon with a retinue of gods and Ashurs. And then Mrugavati heard that Mahavir had a Samvasaran outside. She opened the gates fearlessly and went there with great magnificence. After paying homage to the Lord of the world, she remained in proper place, and Chandra Pradyot also came to pay homage to Mahavir Swami and sat down, his hostility abandoned. Queen Mrugavati asked to be ordained as a sadhvi and requested. Now look at the cleverness. She said, I want to become a sadhvi in your Sangh Bhagwan, but I also request Chandra Pradyot to act as a guardian for my son. And because they were in the presence of Bhagwan, they could not say no. So this is a beautiful picture of, on one side you have Mrugavati as a queen, and on the other side, at the bottom, we have Mahavir Swami Samvasaran and Chandra Pradyot on one side and Mrugavati on the right-hand side. And she's basically saying, I want to take Diksha. and that is Udayan as a small child, and Chandra Pradyot agrees to become the guardian, and then she becomes a Sadhvi, and guess whom she becomes a Sadhvi under Chandan Bala, her niece. So one of the things, so this is a wonderful story on Mahavir Swami and amazing grace that Bhagwan showed. But one of the things that these things is Ati Satham Parena Param, Nati Asatham Parena Param, which is from Acharang Sutra, which Acharya Chandraji Maharaj has been talking about it. And this is what in one of our first lectures or second lecture, she mentioned this. So she said there are weapons superior to each other, but nothing is superior to disarmament or non-violence. It is a selfish and aggressive outlook of an individual or a society that gives birth to war and violence. So now I want you to read that thing below. It is indeed a sin to persecute others, but it is equally a sin to bear persecution tamely and to submit before the persecutor. Persecution in every form must be opposed. My question is, if you oppose, are you doing hinsa or not? To everyone. Now, I do not want people to be grouped. I want people to put their responses in chat, please. If you can, please, if you can put in chat, it will be really helpful. Any response, or have you all run away?
So we've had a question, Sandeep Bhai. I don't know if it was answered from Bindi. What's the difference between Anekantwad and Syadwad? Which
Okay,
was.
I'll answer, Bindi Ben, I'll answer that for you towards the end, please, if I may. So Rupen's peaceful protest. Rasila Ben says, if your intention is to protect yourself and you opposite persecution, then you are not hinsic. I'm not 100% sure about that, because the underlying factor of hinsa, as Ketan Bhai last said, is based on intention, and also obviously the state of your mental, how you are feeling at the point. So I think it is very important. Similar question to last week. In order to achieve justice, persecution can take place. In order to achieve justice, persecution can take place, but is there hinsa or not? Anyone? Or any more answers? Okay, so I will say, so yes, it is equally a sin to bear persecution. So you mustn't bear persecution in any form. And Bhagwan has said that you have to, for the protection of yourself, of your family, of your wider community, it is very important to oppose. However, where you have wars happening and you are conscripted to become part of it, as in happened in Second World War, where even normal citizens who are not soldiers were asked to go and fight the war, but you don't think it is a just thing to be doing, then what would you do in that case? So Bakul Bhai says, Asha Ben says, it is ahimsa. Persecution presumably means injustice. This is hinsa. Will persecution change people's mindset, and therefore why persecute? Asha Ben says it's violence. And then Rupin says, refuse to go to war like Muhammad Ali did. Very good. normal layperson probably does not have a choice, does he? So yes, we do not have a choice if you're conscripted to go to a war which you find is unjust. But it is important that if you find that it is unjust, the war, then you have to protest against it. For example, when the Vietnam War was happening, there were a lot of protests happening in the United States. There were protests happening in the UK against US invasion of Vietnam, and so history has shown that where there is you have to oppose in whatever way you can do. Now, I will come back to the whole issue of hinsa and war. So, hinsa is connected with your bhav. So if you are protecting, if you are defending your honor, if you are defending yourself, if you are defending, say, a woman who is being molested or any creature who is being injured or harmed, then your bhav cannot be krodh, andarthi krodh na hovo joye. Your intention should be that I want to cause the least possible harm where I can. But any kind of persecution, and persecution here is a negative format, and Bakul Bhai therefore is right. That and Rasila Ben is also right, that you cannot, where persecution is, so basically persecution means oppression of people, injustice, and for that it must be opposed, and it becomes a duty of every Jain to see that we cannot, Jainism cannot remain to be just passive religion. You have to be an active religion. You have to participate in society, and then you have to raise your voice if you feel that something is going wrong, but you have to do it in a peaceful manner, and you mustn't obviously let anger get the better of you. So again, my slides freeze, as it always happens. So again, I will go back and I will start and I will continue from the current slide. So So these are the various quotations from our sutras. Natam ari kanchate kare jhana se kare appanaya durapa. The havoc created by one's own unruly mind is more devastating than that caused by ruthless murderer. Veram me appadanto. Control and win yourself. One who has won the self never gets defeated. Imena cheva juzahei, kinate juzahena, badzovo, judarinaha, kulla dulabham. Fight and defeat your own passions. What on earth can worldly wars bring you? Human birth is the best opportunity for the greatest victory, the victory over your passions. We all know this, right? Anushasana, jana guna no vaya, accept the kingdom of knowledge and ethics and walk the path of liberation. So effectively, what Bhagwan is, and this was in the sermon that he gave, where Mrugavati renounced worldly life, and Chandrapradyot then agreed to become the guardian of Udayan. And this is what he said, that basically, when the mind is unruly, and this is what I mean, that when your mind is unruly, it is not in your own control, then it becomes more devastating. So you have these maniacs, these megalomaniacs who rise to power, as we had Idi Amin in Uganda, and you have Adolf Hitler, and you have all these various really horrible people who came to power and caused so much destruction. And therefore, control is the most important thing. So you need to control, and then you need to, oppose any kind of persecution. And then it says, fight and defeat your own passions. What on earth can worldly wars bring you? So yes, worldly wars cannot bring you anything, because at the end of the day, even in Mahabharata, at the end of the day, Arjun says that, we fought this war, but what did it achieve? We killed so many people, so many innocent people died, but what did it achieve? And these are the questions he raises to Krishna at the end. And of course, Krishna gives a brilliant response, but I will not go into that. So this is what this thing means, right? Sorry, it's frozen again. Oh, gosh. So, so the natural attribute of every soul is compassion and friendship, not enmity. Hatred is external, artificial, and harmful. Ahimsa is the essence of life. It is a call of every heart, whereas violence is damaging to one's own soul and damages us internally by destroying our sensitivities and civility. Having killed us from within, ahimsa then hinsa then wreaks external havoc, rapidly bringing down the artificial walls of hatred. I think by bringing up the artificial walls of hatred. It should be not, sorry, it was my typo there. So this is what happens with ahimsa, that you know, aparne badhane, and you know, when you look at Mahavir, so you know, everybody, one of the things that people say, oh, we've heard Mahavir Swami's stories before. We know about Chandrakaushik, we know about Chandan Bara, we know about Sangam Dev, we know about all the adversities that he had to face. But do you know, each adversity that he went through, each adversity, that it just makes you realize that such horrible things were happening to him, and yet he was at peace within himself. And this is an attitude to be nurtured, and this is why his life is inspirational. And if you read any of the you know, Acharan Sutra, Bhagavati Sutra, Sutra Krutang, all of those great scriptures, you know, when you read, then you realize that such deep thought, such amazing thought, and he was applying that to the life at that time. But that those things are still relevant today, because mankind has not changed. We might have mobile phones instead of you know, swords. We might have social media instead of you know, other things. You know, instead of chariots, we have our big tankers which go around bombing people. So it's just not changed. It might have become more sophisticated. We are more sophisticated, but the weapons of destruction have not changed. And those weapons of destruction are in our mind. And as long as our mind is not at peace, as long as our mind is unruly, as long as our mind is not able to reconcile what it happens, and we are ready to blame outside society for things that are going wrong with us, as opposed to accepting that maybe, just maybe, I could have done something wrong in the past, which is why I am experiencing it now. And if that faith comes into you, then you will change. But if that faith does not come into you, that there is something called karma, there is something that is within me, which is called a soul, and that desires, requests, is appealing to you to purify itself, then I'm sorry, we'll be back to square one, where we were many 2,000 years back, and we will still be here, and we will not perhaps even have a Mahavir to take us forward. And that is why listening to Jain scriptures, listening to Jain lectures, enrolling on Veerayatan Vyom is so powerful, because every step you take, and you know, you cannot say I don't know much about religion, but you happen to be part of Jain society. I'm sorry, you know, you need to ask yourself that, really, do I need to be that ignorant about what my heritage is? I don't mean to criticize anyone. I'm sorry if I've been a bit harsh in my language. I do not mean to criticize anyone, but I'm just giving you my opinion. So in conclusion, ideally, we do not want war or oppression of any kind of justice. And at an individual level, we should raise our spirituality such that we don't introduce or accelerate situations that starts the injustice or wars. However, if we are in any situation that requires us to protect self, family, religion, country, then we must act, but without aggression or any kashais within us. We must follow the law of the land we reside in. We can protest the law, but we cannot violate the law. We must be mindful and honest in deciding if a war or a fight is for a valid cause and not with an intention to hurt 2 to 5 cents living beings, personal gains, or to gain more power over others. So this is the end of my session. And my references were obviously Walk With Me and of course Trishashti Shalaka Purush Charitra from Chandra Acharya. Of course, I used other sources as well, but these are the two main sources that I used. And Michami Dukram Marathi kain bhul thai hoy, kain bolwama, my language might have been strong, so please forgive me. You know, Bhagwan ni agya, Acharya Shri ni agya thi Michami Dukram kau chu tamne badane. Now, I have Bindi Ben's question. What is the difference between Anekantvad and Syadvad? So, Syadvad is just a corollary of Anekantvad. It is taking Anekantvad into a further detail. And what Syadvad says is that there are 7 types of, it's called Saptabhangi. Saptabhangi means 7 ways in which you can break a point of view. And you know, I'm not going to go into the detail because it's quite it requires a more elaboration. But basically, it says that, for example, from your point of view, you might be correct, but you might also not be correct. Similarly, from my point of view, I might be correct, but I might also not be correct. At the same time, you could be correct, and I could be correct. And that way, it breaks this whole Anekantvad into minute 7 different points of view. And what it says is that in those 7 points of view, a resolution of a conflict can be found if it is applied logically. So, you know, we all know about the story of the elephant and the blind people, and one says, oh, this is a trunk, and this is something else. They don't realize it's an elephant. They say it's a tree, and somebody says it's a fan, or somebody says, oh, it's a branch, you know, all kinds of things. And that is illustration of Anekantvad. What Syadvad does is that it breaks it even further, that yes, in order for you to understand whether it is a trunk of a tree or it is you know, not another thing, then you need to elaborate it further, and in your mind you need to logically apply the 7 ways in which you can do it. I have one more.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah, so Rasila Ben, thank you, Rasila. Syadvad is the expression of a point of view by giving the context. Yes, so it basically puts everything into a context. Any other questions? Anyone, please?
Sandeep, I wanted to ask you, you know, towards the end of the sort of chapter, it says equanimity was the success, was the secret of her success, both in her role as a queen and also as a sadhvi. Can you, are you able to elaborate more?
Yes. So Mrugavati, when she was the queen, obviously, you know, one thing we need to understand that both Dharini and Mrugavati were extremely religious people, both the sisters. And they had been practicing religion, and they were very devout followers of Mahavir Bhagwan, both of them. And in fact, all of them were. What had happened was that as soon as she found out that her husband had been killed because this Chandra Pradyot was lusting after her, she became, she could have panicked, she could have cried, she could have wailed, she could have sort of, you know, become extremely, either, you know, in those times, people used to even kill themselves. I mean, women used to kill themselves. They would become satis. They would throw themselves on the funeral pyre. She didn't do any of that because she knew that she had to bring up Udayan, but she wanted to bring him up in a way. So she very calmly thought about how she was going to approach it, and yet protect her kingdom and protect the people, because she knew that if Chandra Pradyot became, then, you know, the people will also be suffering, because his reputation, Chandra Pradyot's reputation, was a very cruel ruler. So what she did was that she basically, with a lot of calmness, with a lot of equanimity, she said that, look, I will only marry you provided I'm allowed to bring up my son, and provided you basically fortify my city again, because it has been destroyed by a war, which he agreed. And then she allowed Chandra. And then when he said that, when he sent another invitation, she at that stage said that, no, I do not want to do it, and I want to basically renounce and become a sadhvi. Now, another bit of the story is that as soon as she became a sadhvi, she actually, within, I think, a couple of years after becoming a sadhvi, she attained enlightenment. And she attained enlightenment. And there's a very interesting story where Swami was giving a sermon. And normally, whenever he gives a sermon, by evening time, the people are supposed to make their way back to their living quarters. However, Mrugavati sat longer in the Samvasaran than it was required to do so, because there are certain disciplines at that time. And when she came back, Chandan Bala actually reprimanded her because she did not follow. So Mrugavati didn't say anything. She apologized, and then she went to her quarters to sleep. And when she was sleeping, she actually saw a snake entering into Chandan Bala's hut. And she rushed to Chandan Bala's hut, and she woke up Chandan Bala and said, look, there's a snake. And Chandan Bala at that time realized that she has achieved this Avdignan, and of course Manapariya Gnan, and that within a couple of days, she achieved enlightenment. And immediately Chandan Bala apologized to her. So Mrugavati, even when she was in Mahavir's Sangh, she lived a life of absolute equanimity, absolute devotion, and absolute realization of the self on the path.
Thank you so much, Sandeep Bhai, for enlightening us with the depth of the knowledge in chapter 9. So I don't think there's any more questions for this evening. We are finishing time now. I'd like to end with just a couple of quotes. In every crisis, doubt or confusion, take the higher path, the path of compassion, courage, understanding, and love. The world needs huge positive energy to fight against the negative forces. So go to the center of your inner being and generate that positive energy for the welfare of the humanity. Ashaben, if you can please end today's session with the Manglik, and there will be a quick poll at the end, if everybody can please fill in. Jai Jinendra from all of us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being patiently listening to me. Thank you.
Chattari Mangalam Arihanta Mangalam Sita Mangalam Sahu Mangalam Kevali Pannato Dhammo Mangalam Chattari Lokuttamam Arihanta Lokuttamam Sita Lokuttamam Sahu Lokuttamam Kevali Pannato Dhammo Lokuttamam Chattari Sharanam Pavachami Arihante Sharanam Pavachami Siddhe Sharanam Pavachami Sahu Sharanam शरणं पवचामि खामेमि सव्वजीवे सव्वे जीवा खमन्तु मे मित्ति मे सव्वभूतेषु वेरं मज्जनकेणै सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्यं सर्वकल्याणकारणं प्रधानं सर्वधर्माणां जैनं जयति शासनं जैनं जयति शासनं जैनं जयति शासनं.
Thank you, Ashaben. Thank you so much.
Sandeepa, you need to stop the share.
Yes.
अन्यथा शरणं नास्ति त्वमेव शरणं मम तस्मात् कारुण्यभावेन रक्ष रक्ष जिनेश्वर रक्ष रक्ष जिनेश्वर रक्ष रक्ष जिनेश्वर शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रतन रूपाणु
शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रतन रूपाणु
शांति पमाडे वो स्मरण हुपाणु शांति पमाडे वो स्मरण हुपाणु
शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रतन रूपाणु
शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रतन रूपाणु स्नेह सुधारस नयनोथि वहतु स्नेह सुधारस करवी मारे नित्य आराधना ले जो स्वीकारे वे अधूरी उपासना ले जो स्वीकारे एवी अधूरी उपासना बलजो निरंतर शरण तमारू
बलजो निरंतर शरण तमारू शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रटन रूपा